Assalamu alaikum. Today we'll be looking at the question of child marriage in Islam. Is it true that child marriage is allowed, even though it clearly has some health and psychological disadvantages, educational, financial disadvantages, particularly for the girls involved? To understand this topic better, one needs to appreciate the changing trends in most societies. Traditionally, it is parents who would decide the age at which to marry off their children, daughters for example, and daughters in particular. When it was at a very early age within Islamic law, it was more betrothal, because sexual relations are not allowed. A man is not allowed to consummate his marriage with a wife until she has reached the age of sexual maturity, at which time she actually decides and has the legal right to reject or accept such an arranged marriage, which was very common in most cultures until recently. It is recently, or more recently, that people have had greater say, greater choices in who they got married to. Most cultures arranged marriages and decided on who was married to and what age that person was. In many cultures also, because girls and the young men involved would want to start having sexual relations very early in life while they are still adolescents or teenagers, and as expected, children would be born out of these relationships, most families catered for some form of early marriage to accommodate children being born within the family. And this was usually also taken care of by the extended family, where there was a supporting structure to accommodate and support early or young mothers in these type of families. In more modern cultures, and cultures that have had more formal education, and where formal education has become important, not just for economic but for major other benefits in society, such marriages are seen more and more as limiting the future options of those involved, particularly the girls. Most families, therefore, prefer to delay marriages of their children until when they are more mature, more aware of their rights and responsibilities, even from a religious perspective, and when they reach an age where they can understand the implications of the marriage contract and are physically, mentally, and emotionally more developed to live with other adults and to be able to raise children. Because of the growing importance of education to financial independence and to national security, most societies try to ensure that their children have completed a significant amount of formal schooling before they get into marriage. From the purely Islamic legal point of view, marriage is a sunnah that is mustahab. It's not fard or wajib. The normative position of marriage is that it is encouraged. It's not compulsory, it's not an obligation. You're not committing a sin by not getting married, so long as you don't go and commit a sin because you're not married. The age, however, at which somebody gets married is mubah, it's jaiz, it's left open for those concerned. It's an optional issue. And so we find at the time of the Prophet, men and women getting married at different ages. Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet, peace be upon them, married Ali when she was at least about 18 years old. The Prophet married Aisha when she was still young, in her, according to some narrations, about 6 or 9 years old, and then moved to the Prophet's house when she had reached the age of maturity. But we also have narrations of the Prophet marrying Khadija when he was 25 and she was 40 years old. And we've got all sorts of ages. The point being, the age at which a person gets married is optional. So while marriage is recommended, the age is left open as mubah. An Islamic state or Islamic society, in consultation with its scholars and citizens, has the right to put a minimum age for things like driving. an Islamic society has the right, or any society for that matter, to put a minimum age for any official assignment or military enrollment, or the age at which a person would hold a weapon, if that society believes that that is in the best interest of the general public, what in Islamic jurisprudence is called maslahah. And so, the Islamic society or state has the right to put a minimum age for marriage, or to ensure that all marriages are registered, or to ensure that all those who are conducting marriages have reached a minimum level of competence in Islamic law. That is, if the state believes that this is in the best interest of maslahah, in the best interest of the general public. If such a society considers that the advantages of such restrictions, the advantages of putting a minimum age, the benefits to society will be greater than the harm and the disadvantages. In other words, if the maslahah is greater than the mafsada, if the benefit is greater than the harm, then such measures are considered permissible. And so even though in early Islamic history, and even during the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the companions, certain things were not restricted. Where you drive, whether right or left on the road, whether you stop at traffic signs or not, what age before you can ride a camel, what age before you can hold a weapon. Even though these were not issues at that time, if in a contemporary society or in any society they feel that there is the need to put certain restrictions on driving, on marriage, on finance, etc., for the purpose of benefit and to avoid harm, then Islamic law and the principles, the usulul fiqh, the sciences of the principles of Islamic jurisprudence, the maqasid and the objectives of Sharia, make it permissible for new laws to be brought into effect in the interest of maslahah, in the interest of the general objectives of Sharia. And Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum.